Elan Opening Up, and this is part, I think, 4. And we've talked about choosing your highest excitement in order to create reality. And always choosing what you prefer over what you don't prefer, because it's the difference between living a life that's someone else's. Choose what other people prefer. That's what's in your frequency energy field, and that's the timeline you draw to you or you shift to. If you always choose what you do prefer, even if you can only do it in the little things till you get stronger and stronger, then the resulting reality will be a reality you prefer. So, and that all beliefs are caused by emotions. And so that's where we're at here on Elan Opening Up. We're about 8 minutes, 11 seconds in.
Is this: if you are willing to feel your negative emotions rather than deny them and squelch them, yes, you do have to feel them, but only for a very short amount of time. For when you get down to feeling your emotion...
And one of the tricks of that is, so when you got an emotion that comes up, just close your eyes and find it in your body, and then just look at it. Maybe if you got a fan or some white noise or something to play with something without words, just feel into it. Don't put a story to it. Don't be like, oh, I should have done that. I should have done that. Don't regret the past. Don't future trip. Just be here in this now moment, feeling that emotional pain in your body, and just focus your mind, your thoughts, just focus on it without a story. And that helps it to dissipate.
And allowing yourself to express them, then you are in the perfect mindset to ask yourself, not now hypothetically, but while you are feeling it, what must I believe right now in these circumstances to feel this way? So opening up to your emotions is the allowance of those emotions, again, particularly ones that you do not prefer, for they deliver on their wings the messages that are your beliefs. So therefore, when you open up to your emotions, allow them through, and then ask yourself what belief lies under them, then the quote-unquote
allow your emotions, feel them, find them in your body, and then identify the belief that goes with that emotion. So what must I believe to have that emotion? And if that's, you struggle with that, go, well, what am I afraid of? What's the worst case that could happen? Like, play it out in your mind so you can understand what it is that you're believing, because that belief is what's causing that emotion. Because someone could come up and say something to 10 different people, and they'd all have a different reaction based on their own programs, their own emotions. So you identify what your belief is. And it's so surprising. So many times people are like, well, no, I don't believe that. So it was their parents, it was put on them as a child, or past lives or parallel lives, and they don't actually believe it. So it's important to identify the belief. Because beliefs cause emotions, and this creates your reality.
Consciously bought into belief gets handed to you, as you say, on a silver platter. It becomes most obvious in that moment. That is why the emotion is created, to tell you, to allow you to see what you believe. And once again, once you acknowledge a belief, and acknowledge that it is a truth and not the only truth, you then equalize it to all the other options which you now lay before you. When you deny that, when you say, well, here I feel a negative emotion. What must I believe? I must believe this particular negative thing. Oh, I would never believe that. Oh, anyone who believes that is very bad. No way. You deny that emotion, you deny that belief, and you tuck it back into the subconscious. When you acknowledge in that sense the belief, well, I would prefer not to believe this. I would prefer no one did, but obviously I do believe it.
I love you.
You are now back in what you call the driver's seat. You now can change that belief, but only because you have allowed yourself to acknowledge it. Acknowledgement liberates your unconscious beliefs. Denial tucks them back in. And by the way, they then come back knocking louder. For you cannot ultimately, for very long, deny what is inside of yourself. It grows nastier, uglier, noisier, and eventually will come in some unpreferred form that you will address it. So your willingness to begin to dive into addressing your beliefs, again, in the form of negative emotions, allows you to see an interesting thing that occurs. Once you are willing to feel the anger, feel the fear,
Feel the
feel whatever negative emotion that you create, and again, it hands you the belief. You generally get to a point, now that you've dived into it, where you simply go, well, now what? It is not that the emotion ever continues to grow and overbear you, only does it seem to do so when you deny it, or you deny its underlying belief. So in acknowledging, in calling forth a belief that an emotion represents, the hold of that emotion begins to loosen. For that is again why the emotion has been created by you. And when you use your creations in a positive way, they have no reason to hang around after that. They have played out their purpose.
Yep.
So your willingness to feel these negative emotions and trace them back to the belief actually allows you to end cycle on feeling them. Your willingness to say, well, that couldn't be me, I'm beyond that, again tucks it back in the form of denial. And again, you will get to look at it again some other time in a nastier form. As you open up to your emotions, as you open up to your thoughts, for they often will be generated from such emotions, and trace back to the belief, the last thing that is left to open up to is what you call your actions. For your beliefs create emotions and thoughts, and with that foundational prism, you then act, you do something, you perform an action in your reality. That action will always be tainted if it is, again, a negative belief, but somehow will reflect in either a blatant or subtle way the underlying belief, emotion, and thought. Never again do you act in a vacuum or do anything in a vacuum. There is always a foundation. So obviously, if you have a negative belief, yielding a negative emotion, yielding a negative thought, the actions that you perform will have a negative foundation and cannot help but, again, blatantly or subtly come out as negative actions.
Yep.
In a physical world, which is where you choose to exist, actions are actually what create the reality, physically. So therefore, belief, emotion, and thought are the foundation, and action is the midwife that brings in that reality. And you always, again, as you always feel what you believe, you always act according to what you truly believe. So beginning to open up to your actions, how am I acting in a particular circumstance? Again, particularly when you are not acting according to your preference, can also be traced back to a belief. Now, this is what liberates you from your unpreferred beliefs, opening up to them in the form of emotions, thoughts, and actions. But where you transform them, having acknowledged them, is by opening up to the actions performed from the old negative beliefs, which is again what creates your life. You may now that you are equalizing the old unpreferred belief by acknowledging it, call up the new preferred belief. And the new preferred belief,
Right.
when you even state it with your eyes closed, perhaps sitting still and quiet, you can begin to get a sense of how it feels. Because again, all beliefs yield an emotion, even if you are only trying them on.
All beliefs.
So you can literally conjure up the feeling by simply stating the belief that you prefer, having acknowledged the old belief that you no longer do. When you state the new belief and begin to feel it and project in your imagination very clearly how one with the new belief would act if you open up to those actions, which will be absolutely different, obviously, from the actions of the negative belief, you now have in front of you a mold, a model. Choice A, negative actions according to the negative belief, and choice B, positive actions according to the new preferred positive belief. When you go through...
All right, check out Elan, E-L-A-N, Crystal Cox on Rumble for the rest of this.